to the future of HR of belonging through intersectionality. We are thrilled to have all of you with us today. I'm Kapil Jagat, the CEO of Regenesis Corporate Education, and I'll be host to this engaging and hopefully
recording in progress
webinar. Before we begin, I want to ask our esteemed panelists if you can briefly introduce yourself to the audience. Please go ahead, and I will select in no particular order. Sarah, please, can you go ahead first?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Kapil, and good day to everybody that has joined this webinar today. My name is Sarah Odwa. That's what I prefer to be called, so you don't have to worry about spelling out my surname. I am the founder and executive director of Basilia Strategies. Our key focus is to design and provide employee wellness interventions and to build a bridge between employer and employee and create an enabling environment, which includes the topic that we are talking about today on DEIB, which we are going to unpack as we talk about it with regards to intersectionality. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Can I have Cindy next, please?
Thank you very much, Kapil. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Cindy. I am the founder of a boutique consultancy called COSEC 8. We do corporate governance, and our specializing clients that we specialize with are founder-led organizations, where we work with them to transition them from the founder state to a corporate state. So what we do is corporatizing organizations. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Cindy. I can have Jacqueline next.
Hi, I'm Jacqueline Mahaha. I work in the HR field. I work for Vericon Outsourcing as an HR executive. I come from a strong HR background, and basically what we do at Vericon Outsourcing is we are in the warehousing industry, where we actually manage warehouses on behalf of our clients. In a nutshell, that's what we do.
Thank you so much. Last and certainly not the least is Bridget. Please go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bridget. I am the head of agencies at Google. I really am just in charge of the strategic relationships between Google and media agencies in South Africa. I also am on a lot of DEI work streams at Google. So I'm really feeling the imposter syndrome, like I shouldn't be in an HR panel, but hopefully I have something to add today.
Well, we're very glad to have you, Bridget. Thank you so much. Thank you, panel members. Dear colleagues, these webinars are meant to educate our community and to create awareness around topics and themes perhaps we were previously ambivalent to. Let us take a moment to acknowledge Regenesis Business School for allowing us this opportunity to learn. I've got 2 or 3 slides that I just want to quickly run through. So please bear with me. Thanks. Can I have the next slide, please? Thank you. I just want to talk about the pedigree of Regenesis. I mean, if you look at Regenesis, the business is over 25 years old. It's one of the original private business institutions, school institutions in Africa. If you can look at the numbers there, 200,000 alumni, 190 countries, more than 1,000, well over 1,000 corporate clients, over 100 faculty members from various countries, 100 programs, and at 5 international global locations. You know, we are one of the fastest and leading global institutions around the world. So, you know, we are pleased to be part of these events and to create this ongoing continuous learning process through webinars and various other mechanisms. Thanks. Can I have the next slide, please? Now, you've just seen our pedigree. Now, I'm going to tell you why we have such a good pedigree. You know, a lot of schools and institutions focus on creating value for the employer and for various other monetary aspects. And whilst we completely acknowledge the value of commercials, we as Regenesis focus on developing a holistic human being. So when we talk about leadership, we talk about leadership as a human being, not only in the workplace. And how do we do this? We do this through our our module, which we call the multiple intelligences. And as an example, you can see on the right-hand side there, we have spiritual intelligence. Now, that is not aligned to any religion or any cultural activity, but it's rather aligned to a human being having a purpose in life. Why do you open your eyes? These entire selection of intelligences, and there are more, the whole aim of them is to try and create a level of awareness and awakeness and to unlock the true potential that all of us as human beings we have. Ultimately, what we're trying to do, if you look at the bottom left, a whole point of any training intervention anywhere in the world is to create a behavioral shift and to create thought leaders. And thought leaders, to be a leader, you don't have to be a managing executive or a CEO or a manager. You can be a leader in your life. You can be the best mom, the best dad, the best community member, you can best employee. It's up to you. Why must you only be the best in one area? How do we wrap all of this together? You can see through our very innovative teaching and learning methods, we are able to deliver training that delivers true value to the employer, to the community in which the person exists, and to the person themselves. So that is creating a holistic human being. Thanks, guys. Can I have the next slide? I want to talk very briefly on, future fit skills. We at the business school, we do a lot of research. We have over 100 academic faculty members with doctorates and PhDs. And we're always doing research around what are the skill sets that leaders and managers and people need in the next decade or even longer. And we worked out that on the left-hand side, you can see, all of these skills are going to become critical in being successful in the workspace. And most importantly, on the right-hand side, are courses that Regenesis have on offer that match these skills. So if you want to be a complete future fit employee and a leader of people, please engage with us and be in touch, and we'll be able to support you. Thanks, guys. That's the end. Let us now begin this webinar. Before I start, I just want to set the context. In this let's call it rapidly evolving world where technology and digital advancements have continued to reshape our work, it's crucial that our approach to human resources is adaptive and evolutionary. HR professionals and people in the HR ecosystem, and I'm saying this specifically for Bridget, you don't have to be an HR person and be in HR. They play a pivotal role in shaping the culture, the dynamics, and various sort of energies around working. And it's more important than ever that we ensure inclusivity, diversity, and belonging in the workplace. It's becoming so apparently important that there are strategies being developed just around DEI and even departments. The theme of our webinar today is one that resonates deeply in this landscape. It is around intersectionality. Now, what is intersectionality? And it's really difficult to describe. I was telling the guys earlier that when we sent out the request to join the webinar, not many people were willing to become a panelist because this is a topic that doesn't have a high level of awareness. Hence, we chose it, and we're hoping that we can create a level of awareness and education around intersectionality and how it affects all of us. So what is intersectionality? It is a concept that recognizes the multifaceted nature of human identity and the fact that we are not defined by a single characteristic. Our identities intersect, overlap, and combine in unique ways, shaping our experiences and, more importantly, our perspectives. In this digital age, we have been more connected than ever before. We have this unique opportunity to foster a culture where every individual feels that they truly belong. A culture where the value of diversity is not just recognized, but celebrated, where perhaps inclusivity is not a buzzword, but a fundamental principle guiding HR practices. Today, we've assembled a group of thought leaders, HR experts, and practitioners who will shed light on how intersectionality is a powerful, I want to use the word lens, through which we create or which we want to view HR practices in the digital era. We'll hopefully explore strategies, share best practices, discuss real world examples of how organizations are successfully integrating this into their HR initiatives and perhaps into the wider organization. So let's delve into the webinar. I want to start off by asking questions around awareness of intersectionality. And for the first round, I'm going to direct the question to Sarah. What does it mean to recognize and acknowledge one's own intersectionality? And why is self-awareness of this essential for personal and professional growth?
Yeah, no, thank you, Kapil. Just firstly to say, I love this topic and I love what it stands for. There's a statement that you made when you were making an introduction, talking about how inclusivity becomes a fundamental principle of human resource. And as I answer that, for me, the departure point is understanding that you are a human being and your value is more. It's more than just what you put on the table. It's about your holistic approach and what you represent and what you therefore bring into the workplace within an environment that is aware that we are very different, that we have different backgrounds. And it is those differences that contribute to the value that we want to create together in the marketplace. I often talk about how our bodies are different. We have got hands, we've got feet. Those are the different types of diversities that kind of come together to allow us the space to be able to express ourselves. And it does begin with self-awareness. If I look at, in the, I don't want to say HR space, but in the space that I am, it's because I identified how in the workplace, much of what we call discrimination, much of what we call marginalization is actually not intentional to a huge extent. It's just normality of life, Black female, that you talked about that intersection there. That's the natural way of how I've been exposed to things. And so when I go and I interact with people that are different, I'm not generally intending to step on toes or to marginalize. That's the world I have. So it demands an awareness that outside of myself, I am within an environment of people that are different from me. And that intrinsic understanding of who I am, knowing that I'm bigger than what I bring externally, allows the space to be able to embrace others who are also different, and in terms of what they bring, which is beyond the externals, because these are externals. I want to say, of course, my opinion, these are externals, whether you're talking Black, female, or you're talking, someone who's a migrant, it's externals. But what do I bring? It's much more. You spoke about spiritual intelligence. It's much more than just what you are bringing. So that awareness within an ecosystem that's bigger than me, because I am aware of who I am, allows me to then create space for others to be aware and embrace who they are.
Thank you, Sarah. And I'm going to direct the next question. And thank you for that introduction. You've really set the context well into the next question. Now that we have that understanding, Bridget, can you perhaps share from your own life when you became aware of how different aspects of your identity intersect and influence your experiences and your perspectives on life?
I'm so glad you called on me because that question is so beautiful. And Sarah, thank you for the way that you kind of really set us down into the conversation today. I was lucky enough, I think, to be introduced to the concept at university level, which I think sort of undergrad level, which was a really, really powerful thing to understand the ways in which how you come together as a person adds value to a space. And then also the ways that it detracts from others when you are unaware was incredibly powerful for me. It's changed the way that I approached the companies that I want to work for. It's changed the way that I want to volunteer in the companies that I work for. I find myself on a panel with HR professionals because I have put my hand up, and like our president said, to Mamina, when it comes to matters of human resources, because intersectionality has become such a huge part of how I understand myself to be in the world. I was in a Women at sort of talk once, and Women at is our employee resource group specifically for women. And I remember the speaker saying something very, very interesting. She said, when you're in a traffic jam, you yourself are a car in the traffic jam. And I think that is such a profound way of understanding why it is so important to look inward in terms of intersectionality, not just for the value that it brings, but the limitations that it potentially brings up as well. Being able to articulate that for others in order to inspire them towards action really changes the game for our various ecosystems and corporate spaces.
Thank you, Bridget. I want to direct the next question to Cindy. And, I want to ask you, so I'm looking on this side because my questions are on the other screen. Don't expect you to remember all the questions that I've written down. I want to ask you, how can individuals take the first steps, regardless of their background, how can they take the first steps towards understanding their unique intersectionalities on their identities and backgrounds, and its impact and on their perspectives and interactions they have in their workplace?
Thank you, Kapil, for that question. Now, I think the key on the question itself is the individual and the understanding oneself. And this is the journey that all of us are on. Now, as we go and meander through life, there's a whole lot of things. I mean, one, if you look at this offering, as you say, Regenesis offered a talk on intersectionality, and not a lot of people put their hands up because it's still new. So when we encounter newness, sometimes we step back, just evaluate it. The flip side of the coin is the DEI, which now has been, made more common. But if I look at intersectionality itself, this is the point of where we now connect and intersect with another. So it's the interconnectedness part of it. So if an individual is to be self-aware, the people that we interact with, they actually help us with that awareness, right? As we go through life, as I find myself, as I learn to understand myself, and I love your quotients that you presented with Regenesis. It's one of the things that I really, really love about Regenesis because of the holistic approach. The quotients that you've got, in particular, the spiritual one, which is one of the ones that is usually disregarded. We have HR because we say this is the box at which the human interacts with the organization. But that's not really true, because what is the organization outside the human, right? So if a person is self-aware, then there is that much more value that goes at organizational level. So if one is to transition and be aware of themselves and interact with others, that growth starts with, looking at oneself. And that's not always the easiest path. That's why there's the hero's journey. Because when you go through this individuating process, sometimes it's nasty, if not most times, right? But the self-kindness and, again, providing platforms and allowing oneself to learn and exposing oneself to information, it actually makes it a little bit easier. Thanks, Kapil.
Thank you. Thank you, Cindy. I appreciate that. And, if I look at the conversation, ultimately, when you look to understand intersectionality, it either seeks to show you your disadvantages that were always going to be inherent in your life and how you've overcome them, or it seeks to show you the advantages that were always destined to be in your life. And if I had to distill the topic of intersectionality down into one end goal, it's about especially in the workplace. It's about understanding my intersex, but also having a sense of belonging, right? And, in this, so I want to move on to the next section of intersectionality. In this era, considering how we have changed the way we work, I was on a call recently with somebody. I'm not going to mention the company's name. And it was an important call. And the person, I kid you not, right, was on a hammock on a beach. And look, I don't care what the person was. But every time they did that, then the connection froze, Anyway, considering that's the world that we're living in, right? I want to ask this next question to Sarah. What does intersectionality mean in the context of human resources? And why is it crucial for modern workplaces? When I say modern, I'm talking about this new space. We're all having a meeting, but we are nowhere near each other.
I was trying to picture this hammock moving in front of you. Sure, yeah. So now we're going back to a space where we're integrating digital workplace to this word. I want to perhaps start by saying that the concept might be new, but the practice, it's been there for a long time. I mean, we've had to deal with diversities for a very, very long time in the workplace or in whatever environment. I think what it presents, you used a short word for it, intersects, which speaks to the intersectionality part of it. What it presents in the digital workplace is the fact that the human component is still so important. And even though we might be miles apart when we have to connect, I mean, some businesses don't even meet that often. People meet once every 6 months. However, what drives business is people. I believe that. I still believe that. And I think that's the part to say what programs, what processes, what kind of awareness do we then implement in the marketplace? There has to be intentionality. There has to be commitment from those on the top to understand that beyond the gadgets and all that we have, we're still human. And so the sense of belonging, the sense of being able to connect to each other is actually a very important part that still stimulates creativity, that still stimulates innovation. There's a statement that you made when you were coming into this segment, and that statement was kind of referring to the word belonging. Bridget spoke about DEI, there's the B part of that, which is the sense of belonging. Why do we want, our employees, our teams to feel like they belong, to feel like they are included? It is because in that environment, it's freeing, it breaks down walls between people. And it allows people then to begin to be free and to make their voices heard, to contribute to decisions that needs to be made, that ultimately affects the productivity of the company. So I think just to summarize, if I got your question clearly for me, more so than not, the concept itself, although the practice has been around for a long time, is very important now as we go into that digital to say we don't lose the human component. As part of our work, it's the people that bring the value. It's the people that innovate. It's the people that create. It's the people that break through barriers. And so how do we keep that? And so we can implement that in our policies. We can implement that in our interventions within the workplace.
Thank you, Sarah. As you were talking, I was reminded of Maslow and his hierarchy of needs that we've all learned at nauseum at the university and various other places. And I think in the middle of the hierarchy is the sense of belonging, right? And if you look at intersectionality from a disadvantage point of view, you'll find that people from previously disadvantaged backgrounds have actually traversed the hierarchy up to that level. And, they're taking care of themselves, their physiological needs are now being taken care of. Their safety and security needs are being taken care of. And they find themselves in the workplace. And this is the reason why we have DEI initiatives, is because this group of people don't have a sense of belonging outside of the immediate families. And you'd ask the question, we learned about Maslow, and Maslow came up with the hierarchy so many decades ago. But yet it's still something that we're working towards today on a minority segment of people. It's an injustice, really. So thanks for that, Sarah. I want to go on to my next question. And I'm going to direct this question to Cindy. I want to ask you, how can organizations use digital tools and technologies that can support HR professionals, right, in fostering a culture of belonging and inclusivity? Because when you meet and you digitize everything, there is this almost sense of disconnectedness, even though we are so connected. So Cindy, I know it's a tough question, but I'm going to direct it to you.
No, it's okay. Look, at the center of the sense of belonging, so whether the company is fostering it or it's just a fleeting word, at the center of it is the desire to be seen. And what technology has done, it's not necessarily that it's taking that away. And a part of me does feel from time to time that they're overwhelmed with all things technology and things going that direction, is thinking as if it's taking away the humanness of us, but that can never be challenged. So how organizations can actually use technology to be able to expand and reach people at the belonging level. It's how can we use technology to make people feel seen? And it just comes down to that. It really comes down to that. And if anything, technology has provided more opportunities. And when I say feel seen, it's not like literal seeing the person, but it's like really, you were making a reference to Maslow's hierarchy. And it's just the first time I heard about it. And I understand it. I get it cerebrally, but it doesn't sit for me. It really doesn't resonate for me. It just, for me, belonging is like the core need. Before, the sustainability, and I've had many debates around this, but that's just my essence of it. So if we look at technology and what technology can provide, technology basically can sell us back the time, because the biggest need that we have, much more than money at times, it's the time. Time is limited. So technology can allow us to have more time, which means we can connect better as a people. So HR professionals can actually use that to be able to reach the people within the organization and that make up the organization better. Thank you.
100%. Sorry, I have to weigh in, Kapil, before you say something. If we look at it through people, process, and technology is going to provide us with data a lot faster to be able to pivot and make decisions based on intersectionality, based on the spaces that we create, with how, as people, we use technology. Let's say we're in an environment where we're collecting data on how people are feeling in relation to their belonging, given their multiple intersections of oppression, or I put this in inverted commas because I think there's so many ways to kind of look at it. But if you're looking at that data as a company and there's a commitment to look at that data and then make decisions around what you want to do with your HR practices and then pivot from those decisions when they're not working, we currently have capabilities that we previously could never have had. It would take us so much longer to collect that data, to understand that data, to then decide how we're going to pivot than what we have now, especially with the rise of AI and how we would be bringing this into our space. I think the idea that somehow people are removed from technology is a misnomer. It is us who drive how AI would work. It is us who drive what the input is. Just because it is generative doesn't mean we don't drive the input. And so I think it's a real missed opportunity if we don't see this as a real opportunity to look at ourselves in the mirror with data. This is an informed way to really shift directions on our HR practices. So I just think it can be a very empowering tool. There's some ways in which it can be disempowering as well. And then the one last thing that I wanted to say was your comment on the hammock. Now, this to me goes into the process layer of it. So I said it was technology and then the people and the processes. And then the processes I think are really interesting in this area where we've got, this expectation to all work from home, for example. To me, intersectionality means, have I asked the question of, can everybody in my organization afford to do that? There's this expectation, right, that everybody's got to log on. Does this person have internet? Do they have fiber? Do they have data? And if not, what is our position as a company in providing that? Is that our responsibility? Is it not? Like, these are all, that to me is how we need to be thinking about our connectedness, literally from what are the wires that connect us? Can these people afford to be attached to that wire? And if not, what do I need to be doing about it? So I think there's just many layers to this. We can't just look at the face value of what happens when you're seeing this person on the hammock. Actually, has that organization asked many other questions about the connectedness of their people? I'm all for the freedom, but how are we making that something that's accessible for all?
Thank you.
Can I add there, Kapil?
Please go ahead, Sarah, please.
Yeah, no, thank you. I also wanted to add a dynamic, and as I was listening to Cindy speaking and the closing remarks Bridget was making, how digitization itself, if we are not aware, can also become an element of intersectionality, because there's an assumption that everybody is able to embrace it, for starters, right? I mean, when we're talking about marginalized or a small group of people that are not able to access, or we're not able to access certain privileges before. And I'm going to use an example of the client. I'm at a client now in Heidelberg. You've got a continuum within the team of people that are highly educated. These are our researchers who do all the work. And then you've got the people at the lowest level who are working in the factories for us. And some of them don't even have standard one. So you've got this huge continuum of people that form part of this team that delivers the final product that's supposed to be there. And sometimes there's an assumption, and it can be, if we are not aware, because we can sideline those who are not digitized, right? Because we're making this assumption that, yes, when we're now putting on this platform, everybody's getting on with the program, everybody's supposed to also say, I don't understand it, I don't even want to understand it. And they can be marginalized, on those bases. So it's interesting how even this value of digitization, or the use of digital equipment as we go to AI, if not careful, can also become part of a value that can marginalize a group within the workplace.
Thanks, Sarah. And Cindy, your comments have sparked many thoughts from all of us, including myself, right? And I'm reminded about a particular theory. I think it was the cultural dimension theory by a guy with the name of Kurt Hofstadter. And amongst these cultural dimensions, he spoke about the power distance. And power distance in Hofstadter's theory was, it measures the extent to which a society or organization or a country accepts and reinforces hierarchical power structures. So a high power distance culture tends to accept and respect authority, while a low power distance culture encourages a more, let's call it, egalitarian approach. Now, that's well and good, but let's talk about intersectionality, right? And on the other hand, intersectionality acknowledges that individuals have intersecting identities, race, gender, class, and so forth, that influence their experiences and their access to power, right? It recognizes that some individuals may be more privileged in certain aspects of their identity, which can impact their access to power and influence. So what am I trying to say? I'm saying the link between these concepts is that power dynamics in the workplace is not experienced uniformly by all individuals, right? So you might be on a Teams meeting or a town hall or having a general conversation with many people, but there are so many individuals with their different intersectionalities experience your speech or your conversation differently. In an intersectional framework, really, individuals from different identity groups may experience power and hierarchy at all levels. I'll give you an example. A woman of color, as an example, may face a high power distance due to both gender and racial identity, which can intersect to create very, very unique challenges and obstacles in the workplace. Now, I'm hoping you're getting my point here, right? Because I'm leading to a question. Should leaders, I'm talking about CEOs and HR directors and CFOs and executives and managers, should they be, when they talk to you, and can I pick on somebody? Please pick up a hand and I'll pick on you. Otherwise, I'm not going to pick on anybody. I'll have to pick on myself, right? So, okay, Bridget, I'm going to pick on you. Assuming you are a general employee at a company and you are making your way up the ladder and you are who you are, Bridget, should a leader acknowledge that, number one, you are a person of color, number two, you are female, number three, you come from a certain culture, number four, I'm making assumptions here, you do not have access to education, number five, you have a high power distance, you respect authority, and you just yes sir type of situation, yes ma'am type of situation, whereas your colleague who's the opposite of you doesn't have that, and hence my conversations with you and my messages to you should be tailored. That's a question to anyone who wants to answer it.
Go for it, Bridget. I'll come after you. Okay, great. All right, I'm happy to take that question. And that question actually takes me back to the first question that you called on me on, which was about individuality. Because the fact that I'm a woman of color with the background and the box that I fit in does not necessarily mean that my power distance is what the leader may assume. In fact, that can be the source of contention, and we can have a fresh problem if that is the attitude. So going back to being recognized, being seen as an individual, and I know it looks like it's a challenging thing, but that is the beauty of humanity. We connect person to person. So the interconnectedness, our common parts, that's the humanity part. And we cannot override that. Yes, we have AI, and AI is getting smarter. And one of these days, we're going to be able to do avatars, and I can work from home, and you can meet with my avatar, and it'll look the way that I want it to look like. And mine, for your information, will be a German man, even though I'm an African woman. And that is the essence of me, right? So if leaders are going to package it according to my exterior, that will perpetuate segregation and separation. You can continue.
I fully agree. Sorry, can you see all my hand actions? I look like a weather lady here. 100%. There's this theory, but her name is Hortense Spiller. She's an African-American theorist, and she talks about, she's also one of, I think at least one of the early writers around intersectionality. And she talks about the hieroglyphics of the skin, how you walk into a room and somebody has already decided your whole story based on how you look, how you present, what you say, even your accent, just everything about you. Our brain is trying to make sense of the world and therefore make certain decisions about who someone is. Now, belonging to me is the ability for all of our realities to exist. Now, that is a huge ask of organizations. But in order to make that a reality, what is required is listening, not assumption. I don't need you to assume anything based on what you can see. Don't put a story on me. Don't, like Horton says, with the hieroglyphics of the skin, do not put a story on me. Ask me what my story is. In the same way that I should not put a story on anybody that I walk into, walk into a conversation with around their relationship to the distance of power. I have no idea really anything about it. Just because you're employing me, I actually don't know what your relationship is to power. Take regional and global structures, for example. What does that mean for power? This can get very complex in the corporate world. This is not, I don't believe that this is a cut and dry conversation. And what belonging, I think, truly requires is listening rather than assumption. That's what I would say. So yes, you can put all of those things on me when you have a conversation on me, but don't tailor your conversation. Just ask questions and listen.
So I get your point. We're not going to tailor, but there should be a level of awareness, right? There should be a level of awareness.
Very different. Those are very different things, because the tailoring, like Cindy said, is going to give you a fresh problem. I think I'm going to use that going forward. I like that phrase very much. You go in with an assumption, you're going to have a problem. Don't do that, because we don't know.
It can be condescending.
Exactly.
It can be condescending. Yes, I get it.
Create the space for conversation. That is the thing that changes. An honest and authentic conversation where people are allowed to make mistakes. I very often make this, the LGBTI community, for example, when it comes to the evolution of that space, sometimes it has been difficult to keep up with the definitions, what they mean, how that's changed. What has helped us, I think, as a community here, is our ability to embrace people making mistakes and holding space for that, and saying, not in a judgmental way, hey, that doesn't work anymore, and here's why. But it's us being able to have honest conversations and being able to make mistakes and learn from each other. That, I think, is the thing that leads us to the next level. I'm gonna keep quiet now. Sorry.
Thanks. It's good to have open dialogue and speak from the heart, so our audiences can appreciate, the truth behind the topic. I want to bring us back down to earth now. I want to go back to my line of questioning. We discussed would our audiences hopefully now understand what is intersectionality. We spoke about navigating intersectionality in this day and age, right? I want to talk about real world applications, right? My next question I'll direct to you, Sarah, right, is what are some very real actionable steps? And I will use myself here, right? Myself as a leader that I can take back to my organization, right? That I can implement to create, embrace, understand, and allow everyone to know what intersectionality is, and allow my organizations to embrace intersectionality. Just give us some real basic stuff that we should be doing.
Yeah, thank you, Kapil. I think one of the most important things as a departure point is to really be committed to seeing human beings, or the people that form part of your business, growing. It shouldn't just be about a concept that you want to apply in the workplace. Remember, why do we want to see this inclusivity and belonging? I keep using this because we have an end goal. We exist as an organization to achieve a particular goal. We have brought in these people in the workplace because they are going to contribute towards that. And I have found, with the clients that we've got, that it's so much easier to see fruit when there is a very genuine commitment from those that are in leadership to view people not as a means to an end, but to view them as individuals who, in the process of bringing in their skills, their gifts, their talents, they also have experiences that are positive that they gain from the organization. So for me, that commitment is very, very important. That's a departure point. Otherwise, we are just, just playing games really about just ticking boxes and having good programs that we can talk about, but there's no real transformation. You must be able to come into this workplace, Kapil, and see a people that are diverse in various ways, but having a sense of belonging. You must see that transformation. It must extend itself to the ground, because there is that commitment, which is very real and which is very genuine. That's why you have human resource. It's not just a career, it's a calling. The desire is to see development and growth in the people that come into the business. Secondly, when I was listening to both ladies, they brought in some very, beautiful comments that I agree with. So at that level of practicality, how do I move from assumptions, as Bridget was speaking so passionately? We move away from those assumptions because we get to know each other as we work together. So there has to be intention of developing programs of cohesion. For us, it's part of those is coming up with, soccer club that we have, but areas where people can meet and engage so that we can get to know beyond what I see. There's a human being. And when I begin to understand that, it actually builds us towards a common goal. There are very few companies that want to invest in that because it demands investment. But it is so worthwhile when you have a workplace that is a home away from home. It's possible, I've seen it. That's part of what we deliver to our clients. Creating a home away from home demands that investment. But if there's no real legitimate will to see that development, people will not make that investment. Then, of course, in the area of programs and policies, that one structures, they bring in that kind of awareness and being able to refresh on those. Although policies, just like law, does not necessarily change hearts, but it just helps, it guides. It says to everybody who comes into our space, our ecosystem, it kind of gives them an understanding of who we are and what we believe. So I think I'll end on those three, and maybe allow the ladies to add if they have anything else that they want to add.
Thanks, Sarah. It's we can always have this blue sky thinking, and we can deliberate and think about these unique topics, but it always boils down to practical steps and, like you said, investments, right? And speaking about investment, I want to direct the next question to Cindy. The reality is we have HR departments, right? And they need to be ahead of all these concepts. And why do they need to be ahead of all this? Because they want to make everyone feel inclusive, belong, and share a good culture. For what? For what? To create value for the shareholder, right? We've all heard that, shareholder. Why? Because the shareholder is the one who took the risk and he's now got the business. So I want to ask you, what is the relationship between that? Let's create value for the shareholder, right? It's there. And then we talk about intersectionality, which is here. There's a gap between the two. How do we close that gap? Is my question.
Yeah. So in some progressive spaces, we're now moving away from just the focus on the shareholder, because I think the focus on creating value for the shareholder is good, but not really noble as a value. And it's part of what underpins the abuse that we see in organizations. So let's just talk about it as value creation. And the organizations at their core, they're about development, just like human beings, because they're made up of human beings. So, they will match the tree that they came from. So at the core of it, it's about growth and development, and it's about next level as an organization. It's about, we want to be bigger, or we want to be whatever, better, or whatever it is that the vision and the pool of the organization is. And it behooves the organization to then look, and when I say organization in this case, I'm talking leadership, to look at the people from the context of building our own team there. There is a viewpoint that is different when we come from that perspective of saying, what is the point? Why are we all here? You know, and this is what I appreciate about technology and where it's going, and AI and all these things, fancy, because it really is giving us time to think if we really, really look at it for what it is. Because now it's becoming harder and harder to escape and then just stick our heads in the clouds and say, oh yeah, we are busy. You can actually just employ technology and take your time back and really, really assess the reason why we do what we do. So at the bottom of it is that we are coming in as humans, and if we are to develop these organizations as HR personnel within the organizations, we are developing them so that there is growth and development, and so that they grow. So for them to grow, they need to have new timber or new wood that comes into play. So how do we develop our people? You know, what is the perspective? So we cannot have a them and us, because it looks as if leadership is focused on shareholder value. But that is old news. Shareholder value, it's now a collective value. We're talking about, at a point it was 3 Ps. I think now we're on like 5 Ps. And one of them is passion. And one of them is, you know, purpose. And we never had those things before. Previously, we were just talking about profit, which is the essence of shareholder value. So just looking at the rands and cents that goes into the shareholder's pocket. But later then we started bringing in the other P's, which are now talking more to the collective of humanity, going back to the person, the Muntu, you know, the thing behind this engine, which is most important. So how HR and leadership can actually work and create shareholder value is looking at the holistic of human beings, and we look at it with an intention of growing our own timber from internal. It helps with your traction, it helps with, you know, growing the organization, and it also helps with the next level of the organization. I hope I answered your question, Kapil. I may have gotten a little more passionate than you desired.
No, you have it very clear. You highlighted the importance of having a well-rounded person, a well-rounded team. And it's about balance and holistic development, which, might I remind you, is what Regenesis is about. You know, we don't focus on training somebody to become the best academic person. Yes, they'll be the best in academics, but they'll be the best in everything else in their lives. So we focus on developing the human being as opposed to one element of the human being, which is mostly and always all the time a commercial element, which is exploitation.
I do think though that there is a way to bridge the gap like more explicitly. And that's not to say that what has been said is not the cornerstone of it all. I agree. Like it has to be about the people. Otherwise, what are we actually all doing, right? But if you are in a position where there is a gap in language between value creation, right? You said in some transformative spaces or in some more progressive spaces. So that means there are spaces where it is not yet there. And if that is true, that means that there is still a job to be done with bridging the gap of language where people think this is the fluffy stuff. This is the stuff that doesn't contribute to my bottom line, right? And if that happens, then in my mind, I'm often trying to think about how do I make things matter for people? Like how am I in your ecosystem of value creation? And if you look at innovation, right, you've got like businesses with diverse workforces where they are happy and contributing. This is the key. They have 14% higher revenue. Fact, right? Like just globally, that's the situation. When people are happy, and the key there is the diversity of it all, which again is about intersectionality. So it's bringing all those intersectional identities and making sure that those individuals have a home for their intersecting identities and in their workplaces. That ultimately will contribute to my bottom line because those people are going to want to contribute to how I am innovative as a business and not die as a business. So I do think like there is a way that you can kind of very explicitly bridge that gap. Like, yes, it's about the people, but also you who is not yet in the progressive space, do you want your business to die like, video rental places? I'm not saying they had bad HR practices, but they didn't evolve. They did not innovate. And what contributes to not innovating is not having space for people to have their whole selves there and contribute to the changes of those ideas. So your business will die if you don't figure out how to be diverse in a way that actually, makes belonging a reality, that makes intersectionality have a home. That's the truth.
Amazing. I mean, we're now talking about the fundamental concept of innovation and intersectionality. Who would have thought that we would have linked those two concepts, right? But it is so true. It's not a far-fetched thing. It's reality. You want safe spaces, It's not always the one person that finds it. It's a collective group of people that will come up with solutions. So, look, I think it's important that we've got to this stage in the webinar where I think intersectionality is well discussed and everyone understands. Maybe even organizations have an understanding of how to go and implement it. I want to go back to the individual, and maybe I'll direct this question to you, Sarah. As one of the audience members out there, what are the steps I can take as an individual in my personal and professional life where I can document my intersections and see how they are collaborating to be for my good or perhaps not so? What are the things that I can do to acknowledge them and see how they influence my life experience and perspectives?
Okay, two things that come to mind. Hopefully I'm answering your question is one, keep a journal. If you can, you talk about practical things of being able to journal, these experiences, and then also get feedback. It's very important to be able to have that and get it also from people outside of yourself. I mean, it's important to reflect internally, but sometimes we can deceive ourselves as part of that reflection. So it has a space, but journal it and get feedback. It will be able to help you go back and see where the gaps are, if there's any gaps, and how do you want to improve that, especially, of course, within the workplace. That's what I'm referring to. So, yeah, I hope I answered that question and kept it short. I'll leave it to the lady to add.
Do you guys feel like adding anything?
Yeah. I mean, Sarah, spot on. I completely resonate with your answer there. That's what came to my mind as well. And the way that I had put it was doing self-awareness type of exercises. So there are lots of things that one can do to be self-aware. We speak about 360 reviews. So the truth in the 360 sometimes is like, maybe not as 360 as, if you have all the way down, the so-called lowest level employee talking to the performance of the highest in the organization. That is the truth of them. How often do we take it that far, right? So exposing oneself to things that will make you aware of yourself from other people's perspective, that is value. Thank you.
Thanks, Cindy. You know what I want to do? I want to do a very interesting thing. I want to ask a question to ChatGPT. Right? What do you think about that? What question shall we ask it? Right? Shall we ask ChatGPT what is intersectionality? Right? I don't know.
Go for it. Go for it.
If you want,
because, there's this concept, and I'm going to be typing and looking the other way while I'm talking to you guys. There's AI is very robotic and emotionless and all of these things, and intersectionality, DEI, all these things are very difficult to type and talk at the same time. These are not related concepts, but the academic bank of knowledge is there, right? So let's first ask that question. So this is the answer. It says intersectionality is a concept that recognizes how people's identities, such as class, culture, gender, sexuality, race, meet each other to influence their experiences of the life in front of them. It says, think of it as a way to understand how multiple factors to combine to shape your life. So your life is shaped by your intersectionality. What it's saying is your life is shaped by your intersectionality. And we've been living all of our lives not knowing the concept of intersectionality. I'm going to ask it to give me some examples of intersectionality. And,
While you do that, Kapil, you didn't ask me what I think in terms of sort of the practical next steps, and I think you should listen. So in as much as you should be self-aware, that analogy around being the car in the traffic jam has always stuck with me, because I really think that understanding other people's experiences from the vantage point of your intersections is also incredibly key. Not only does it help you move forward with other people, but it also helps you understand the things that you are putting on other people unnecessarily. And that is equally as damaging as the wonderful things that you learn by understanding your intersectionality as well. There's always pros and cons. I think you gotta have the bravery to look at both. And what will give you that is your capacity to listen.
Thank you. I want to move on to examples that ChatGPT has given us of intersectionalities, so the audience can understand, and maybe perhaps, like you said, Sarah, journal these things: race and gender, sexuality and disabilities, class and education, age and gender, religion and sexual orientation, nationality and gender, body size and race, and last, religion and disability. These are all examples of two intersections. You could have multiple intersections. It's just simplifying it. But I think, I think we've had a good discussion. And do you want to say something, Bridget? I want to maybe allow you the opportunity to close out in the context. Now that we've discussed intersectionality, either close out for me as an audience member or for me as an HR or an organization. What do I do with this knowledge of intersectionality? And I'll allow each one of you a few minutes to close out and give us your concluding remarks before I go ahead and conclude. So let's start off with Bridget.
Thank you. I have to go. So that is very fortuitous. I do have to go to my next meeting, but thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. I would say the closeout for me is exactly what I said just before. Listen. I think really understand yourself and take the time to listen to others to understand their points of intersectionality. The more there is home for all of us, the more we're able to move forward and create a world where there is room for all of us. So thank you very much for having me today. And Kapil, thank you for hosting. It was incredible. Thank you, everybody out there.
Thank you, Bridget, for your contributions. Very valuable. Thank you. Bye. Cindy?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for this talk. It is definitely thought-provoking. And my cutting short would be, I think the best thing that one can do for themselves is to be kind to themselves to start with. And the kindness that I'm talking about is we all start from a point where we don't know what we don't know. Because of that, sometimes things may look as if we are faltering or we're doing something wrong, and there's a lot of feedback, and sometimes it's overwhelming and there's just too much to do. But just taking a step back and acknowledging oneself to be at that point, and new information at times, good as it is, it does come off as a recognition of something that maybe one can feel they have faltered. And I'm not sure if that's the correct word, but have missed. And as a leader, sometimes that is a tough pill to swallow. So kindness comes in where you look at it and you say, okay, now I know what I did not know. So what is it that I can do about it? From that point, then you go to informing oneself, get the information. And we all, I'm sure all, do the best that we can with the information that we have at a point in time. And because of that, you are not, far off or like intentionally hating another, or I'm sure no one wakes up and say, oh, I want to fight. I don't know. don't want to speak for people, but just moving from kindness, and because when one is kind with themselves, it's easy to be kind with other people as well. Thank you very much for this opportunity, Kapil.
Thank you, Cindy. Thank you so much. Sarah, some concluding remarks from your side.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Kapil, and the wonderful ladies that I've had a privilege to share space with. I believe in people. I really believe in people. I believe that the greatest asset we have is each other. And the value that we bring is still untapped. And to be able to have the awareness of our diversity and how we can incorporate that, and what we spoke about in terms of how these intersect, and to put those into practice, and to be able to reach out and be the bridge between each other. There's a concept that says as each does its own work, it helps the other part to grow. So as each of us contribute, and also embracing what other people define as marginalized in terms of experiences. I mean, if I look at my color might be marginalized because of what experiences it brought me, but it has also made me richer. And as a result of that, there are things I bring on the table that are very unique and help the body, which is the organization, to grow. And when we have that awareness from a leadership point of view, and we make a commitment to that, we are actually committing to our own sustainability. As I say, because human beings have an incredible potential. I mean, I look at Kapil, I don't know you, I only know what I've seen of you. You also don't know what you are capable of. And you stumble into people that are able to dig deep and take out gold in you that you didn't know you had. And you bring that and you add that as a value. And so I think that's what I want to end with, in just realizing human beings is the greatest asset. And therefore, when we apply these, not as concepts, but as what we believe as conviction, we will certainly see that productivity and growth and sustainability that we seek to see. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah. Very profound statements indeed by both Cindy and Sarah. Guys, as we draw curtains to this on this exploration, really, it was exactly that of intersectionality. In the context of HR, we are confronted with a profound truth that each of us is a tapestry of unique experiences. And unique experiences, identities, and perspectives. In fact, you might say intersectionality is a mirror through which we witness the beautiful complexity of human existence. In our journey through this discussion, we have glimpsed the intricate interplay of gender, race, sexuality, age, and many more other aspects of intersectionality, and how these facets almost shape our lives and our professional experiences. It's really a reflection of the rich tapestry of the human story. And that's what I'm getting this human story. It's resonating a lot with me now. And but it's more than just a concept, this intersectionality. It's a reminder that as we traverse the ever-evolving landscape of our digital age, because it's here to stay and it's not going anywhere, our shared humanity is an intricate mosaic of ever-changing and never-static aspects. In understanding this complexity, we find not only the reality of situations, but a very profound opportunity in embracing intersectionality. In the future, we can expect, in my view, I think we can expect this opportunity to blossom into a deeper appreciation for interconnectedness of all individuals. Again, embracing the human story, right? And we can look towards the evolution of intersectionality in HR as a core guiding principle, and as a journey of let's call it self-discovery, empathy, fostering healthy cultures where voice is not only heard, but a voice is encouraged and embraced. So as we part ways today, panelists and audience, let us carry with us the knowledge that every individual with their unique intersections, right, contributes to this vibrant, and again, I'm overusing the word, but I don't have another word, this vibrant tapestry of our world. You know, every individual with their unique intersections contributes to the vibrant tapestry of the world. The path ahead, you know, if I look at that, you know, it might be a difficult path, it might be winding and at times philosophical, but it is one of, in my view, great promise, where I think the story of humanity can be enriched by every thread, you know, since we're using the theme of tapestry, every shade, every unique intersection. So on that note, panelists, again, a lot of gratitude for you guys contributing on this very intricate topic. And to the audience and our students out there, thank you for joining us. And I hope you've enjoyed this exploration on this topic and you have a greater understanding and you continue forward with your inspiring nature and embracing and including everyone. And thanks, guys. Until our paths cross again, it's been a pleasure. Cheers.
A pleasure indeed.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Bye, Cindy. Thank you.
Bye. Bye, Sarah.